Oh, well, this is exciting. Earlier today, we're being told tourists and National Trust rangers saw the legendary Hynë disappear into a magical doorway within the rock face here at the Giant's Causeway.
An 11-second video of the Giant's Causeway is going viral on social media. A massive basalt rock, part of a 60-million-year-old geological formation, slid open perfectly, revealing absolute darkness inside, before slamming shut without a trace. Investigators conducted sonar scans of the area, and what they discovered behind the door changed everything. The immutable landscape, Giant's Causeway, on the northern coast of County Antrim in Northern Ireland, stands as a monument to the enduring power of nature. For centuries, it has been understood through two parallel stories, one rooted in science and the other in legend. To geologists, it is an open book from the planet's distant past, around 50 to 60 million years ago, during the Paleogene period. This region was a zone of intense volcanic activity. Rivers of molten basalt poured across the landscape. As this vast mass slowly cooled, it contracted and fractured along lines of stress, forming a network of about 40,000 remarkably regular basalt columns, most of them hexagonal. This process, known as columnar jointing, is a well-documented phenomenon found in many parts of the world. It is the result of fundamental physical laws, a striking demonstration of how order can emerge from volcanic chaos. In scientific terms, then, Giant's Causeway is a finished landscape, a static monument shaped by natural forces that fell silent long ago. Alongside that explanation lives another story, woven from the threads of Irish mythology. Legend tells of the giant Finn McCool, or Fionn mac Cumhaill, to confront his Scottish rival, Benandonner, without getting his feet wet. Finn built a causeway from these enormous stone columns across the North Channel. The tale, rich with cunning and deception, has become as inseparable from this place as the stones themselves. It gives the landscape a soul, a human story. These two explanations, one grounded in evidence and the other in folklore, have long existed in quiet harmony. Together, they offer millions of visitors a sense of completeness, a full understanding of where they are standing, whether seen as a geological wonder or the work of a giant. The core assumption remains the same. Giant's Causeway is a relic of the past, a fixed and unchanging place that has already been fully explained. But one afternoon, a visitor launched a drone to capture the scenery from above and share it on social media. By accident, that drone recorded something deeply mysterious: the moving stone. The visitor's drone was a standard quadcopter fitted with a high-resolution camera. It lifted off with a faint mechanical hum and rose above the cliffs, recording the white-capped waves striking the shore and other visitors moving across the hexagonal stones like tiny flecks of color. At first, it was a routine shot, beautiful in a predictable way. Then, suddenly, it was not. As the drone swept across the eastern face of the site, a less visited section of the formation, its lens captured something no geology textbook could account for. A section of the basalt cliff began to move. This was not the motion of a rockfall or natural erosion. It did not crack or crumble apart. Instead, a nearly perfect rectangular mass of stone, estimated to weigh many tons, slid outward in an absolutely straight line, like a precisely engineered door opening on hidden mechanisms. The movement was smooth, controlled, and by every account completely silent. It revealed a black void, a darkness so absolute that daylight could not penetrate it. For exactly 11 seconds before sliding back into place with seamless precision. On the ground, Ranger Thomas Brennan, a man who had worked at the site for more than a decade and knew every part of it intimately, was standing less than 40 meters away, and witnessed the entire event. For a moment, he froze, trying to process what he had just seen. He grabbed the radio at his waist, but his hand was shaking so badly that he dropped it onto the ground. He picked it up, dropped it again, and only then managed to press the button and reach the control center. His voice, usually calm and professional, broke as he tried to describe what he had seen as a door. 3 other visitors, standing in different locations and unconnected to one another, also confirmed his account, describing the same silent and unnatural movement. Even more striking, all 4 witnesses independently reported hearing a deep rhythmic sound, like a slow and steady heartbeat, coming from inside the rock just before it moved. When the drone footage was handed over to the authorities and later examined by digital forensic specialists, it underwent intense scrutiny. Every digital timestamp and every piece of file metadata remained intact. There was no sign of editing, compositing, frame insertion, or any form of visual manipulation. It was confirmed as a clean and untampered digital record of an impossible event. But the most troubling contradiction, the detail that transformed this incident from a mystery into a paradox, emerged when geologists carried out their field examination. They inspected the surface of the basalt block, where the door was said to have opened using magnification tools and surface scanners. The result was a complete negation of what the footage appeared to show. There was no seam, no fine fracture, no variation in texture or composition to suggest that this section had ever been separate from the rest of the cliff. It looked exactly like a single monolithic mass of stone that had been there for 60 million years. The footage, along with the testimony of 4 witnesses, was undeniable proof that it had moved. Yet the rock itself offered equally undeniable physical proof that such a thing should have been impossible. The sonar interrogation. The existence of such an absolute contradiction, where the video and the rock seemed to present 2 opposing truths, demanded an investigation that went beyond what the eye could see and the hand could touch. A team from the School of Geosciences at Queen's University Belfast was brought in, led by Dr. Margaret Sullivan, a respected specialist in geophysics. Their aim was not to chase sensational stories, but to resolve the contradiction through established and tested scientific methods. They arrived with ground-penetrating radar, or GPR, a sophisticated technology that works much like an ultrasound for the Earth. The device sends pulses of high-energy radio waves into the ground and listens for the echoes that return. By analyzing the timing and intensity of those reflected signals, scientists can build a detailed map of what lies beneath the surface without digging a single meter of Earth. The team's working hypothesis was cautious and entirely reasonable. Perhaps there was a natural hollow space, an undiscovered lava tube, or a large pocket of trapped gas left inside the basalt as it cooled. A structure like that might produce strange acoustic effects, or even, in extremely rare cases involving pressure shifts, cause movement at the surface. The investigation was carried out methodically and without prejudice. The team set up a detailed survey grid across the area identified from the drone footage and the witness statements. Dr. Sullivan and her colleagues began the interrogation of the rock, sending one radio pulse after another into its ancient structure. The atmosphere was tense, but focused. At first, the data came back exactly as expected for a dense mass of basalt. Uniform layers of stone appeared on the laptop screens as faint signal bands, indicating a solid, uninterrupted body of rock. They moved the equipment carefully across the grid, collecting data centimeter by centimeter. The tension within the team was not the excitement of discovery, but the concentration of professionals waiting for a small anomaly, a subtle variation in the signal that might explain the larger contradiction. Then, after several hours of work, the signal changed abruptly. The reflections returning from a depth of around 15 meters no longer suggested the chaotic natural structure of rock. Instead, the software began to draw clean, straight lines, surfaces that were unnaturally flat, intersections that met at almost right angles. The sonar signal was revealing an empty space with sharply defined boundaries, a structure with deliberate geometry. It could not have been a cave formed by chance. The data showed, unmistakably, that inside that monolithic mass of basalt there was a chamber. The impossible occupants. The discovery of a sealed chamber, perfectly enclosed within basalt that was 60 million years old, was already enough to rewrite the geological history of the entire region. It challenged every known model for the formation of Giant's Causeway. But what the more detailed sonar scans later revealed, using much higher resolution, pushed the discovery beyond anomaly and into the realm of physical impossibility. The chamber was not empty. When Dr. Sullivan ran advanced imaging algorithms to remove noise and enhance the signal, she sat motionless in front of her screen for nearly an hour without saying a word. The reflections coming from inside the void had formed an image that was both astonishing and deeply disturbing. Standing inside the chamber were multiple distinct objects, several tall, narrow forms. They were arranged in straight rows, with almost perfect spacing between them, as though they had been placed there according to a deliberate and disciplined plan. Their overall proportions, a central body, a broader shoulder line, and a rounded mass at the top that appeared to be a head, suggested a human shape. But the scale was completely wrong, based on the known dimensions of the chamber. These figures were estimated to stand more than 8 feet tall, close to 2.5 meters. Yet the most shocking aspect was not their presence or their size. It was the unimaginable geological context in which they existed. Dr. Sullivan, with her deep understanding of volcanic formation processes, recognized at once a fundamental physical truth that could not be denied. When molten lava cools into basalt, it creates an environment of extreme instability and violence, with temperatures capable of incinerating most known materials, and the crushing pressure of millions of tons of rock above. Any object trapped inside it would be heated, battered, and almost certainly collapse. Lava cannot solidify around upright standing objects without knocking them over. That is a law of physics. And yet the sonar data appeared to show exactly that. Her team repeated the scans several times, recalibrated the equipment, and checked for every possible error. Each time, the result was the same. The only physical way these human-like figures could have remained permanently sealed in that upright position was if they had actively held themselves still, unmoving, resisting the force of the molten lava as it wrapped around them and swallowed them whole. They had not been caught inside a natural disaster. They had stood there, waiting, as the 60-million-year-old rock formed around them. A shift in definition. The discovery of these impossible occupants forced a complete reassessment, a fundamental change in the definition of every known fact. This was no longer an investigation into a strange geological event. The context had changed irreversibly. The moving stone door could no longer be treated as a random occurrence. It had to be redefined as a functional component, an entrance designed for a purpose. The rhythmic sound heard by the witnesses could no longer be dismissed as geological echo or shifting rock. It implied some form of cyclical activity, whether biological or mechanical. Most important of all, the figures inside could no longer be understood as fossils or the remains of the dead. Their position and posture suggested intention, a state of organized readiness. They were not victims buried in a disaster. They were guards standing watch, or prisoners waiting in silence. The entire Giant's Causeway site, once understood as a natural wonder, now had to be reconsidered as a facility, a purposeful structure whose true nature had never been recognized. Seen through this new and deeply troubling lens, other reports from ancient sites around the world began to take on a different meaning. Incidents once dismissed as isolated mysteries or disconnected anomalies could now be read as data points within a larger and far more disturbing pattern. At the ancient necropolis of Myra in southern Turkey, hundreds of Lycian tombs were cut into sheer rock faces more than 2,500 years ago. Archaeologists have long recorded strange signs inside some of the sealed tombs, including deep scratches in the stone that microscopic analysis suggests were made from within by considerable force. At Mammoth Cave in Kentucky, the longest cave system in the world, experienced cave explorers and scientists have documented cases in which familiar passages appeared to have changed or become unnaturally blocked between expeditions, as though the cave itself were reconfiguring its own structure. These incidents could no longer be ignored as curious stories. They suggested that Giant's Causeway was not unique. The possibility of sealed spaces containing something still capable of activity, and perhaps able to alter the environment around them, now seemed to point toward a global phenomenon. The investigation had not uncovered a tomb. There was now a deeply unsettling possibility that it had stumbled onto a type of ancient containment facility or barracks, one unknown to the human record, designed not to honor the dead, but to hold something that was never meant to escape. The official containment. Immediately after Dr. Sullivan's preliminary report, including the raw sonar data and the shocking initial analysis, was submitted to the relevant authorities, among them the Department for Infrastructure in Northern Ireland. An almost total and highly organized silence descended over the investigation. No public announcement was made. No statement was issued to update the public on the so-called geological survey. Instead, action came swiftly, efficiently, and quietly. Public access to the entire eastern section of Giant's Causeway was restricted indefinitely. Simple chain-link fencing, the kind usually seen around construction sites, was erected together with signs that referred only vaguely to ongoing geological surveys and potential instability as the official explanation. To the public and the media, it appeared to be nothing more than a standard safety precaution, a routine act of dull bureaucracy. But to those directly involved in the investigation, it was unmistakably a cover-up. The data had been classified, and members of the research team were required to sign non-disclosure agreements. Yet one crucial detail, one oversight in the rush to seal the area, remained. The small, sensitive seismic sensors installed by Dr. Sullivan's team to monitor minute vibrations in the cliff had never been removed. They were still there, running on battery power and quietly transmitting data to a secure university server. 3 months after the original event, an environmental monitoring specialist, Dr. Ing McGuire, was assigned to review this archive. Her official task was to establish a baseline for normal geological noise in the area. But what she found was anything but normal. The sensors were recording a low-frequency vibration pattern that repeated with complete consistency and originated from the exact location of the chamber identified by sonar. It was the same slow pulse the original witnesses had described. When Dr. McGuire analyzed the data over time, she discovered 2 deeply alarming facts. First, the rhythm of the vibrations was not stable. It was accelerating, slowly but measurably. The interval between each pulse had decreased by nearly 12% over the previous 6 months. Second, and even more disturbing, she identified 3 separate instances in which the strength of the vibrations rose sharply and suddenly, becoming significantly stronger for brief periods. After comparing the pattern with the site's security logs, she found that each surge matched precisely with moments when human beings were present near the restricted zone. One occurred when a maintenance crew approached to inspect the fencing. Another happened during a nighttime equipment check by security personnel. The source of the vibrations was not merely active, it appeared to be aware of its surroundings. It was responding to those who observed it, and the silence of the authorities, combined with the restrictions on access, strongly suggested that they knew this. The threat no longer came only from whatever was sealed inside the rock, but also from the system that was actively concealing its existence and its true nature. The awakening is not a metaphor. All of the evidence, when considered together, does not form a scattering of separate mysteries. It converges on a single conclusion, one that changes how we must think about the history of this planet. The drone footage is not disturbing because it captured a strange natural event. It is disturbing because it provides undeniable proof of a mechanism, a technology integrated so perfectly into the landscape that we once believed we fully understood it. Ancient legends of giants sleeping beneath the earth, like the story of Finn McCool, may not have been myths invented to explain the shape of the stones. They may instead be a form of historical memory, distorted and faded across thousands of years, preserving a deeper biological or technological truth. These stories were not created for entertainment. They may have been warnings disguised as folklore, passed down through generations who no longer understood the true nature of what they were repeating. Whatever lies beneath Giant's Causeway, and perhaps beneath other similar sites around the world, is not the remains of a vanished race or the relics of a fallen civilization. The sonar data showing upright human-like figures, combined with the rhythmic and responsive vibrations, points instead to a state that is not death, but dormancy, a deliberate suspended existence. It is a condition of readiness, waiting for a signal or for some unknown condition to be met. And the sensor data, with its steady increase in rhythm and its clear response to human presence, indicates that this dormant state is ending. The awakening is not an abstract idea or a possibility in some distant future. It is a measurable physical process unfolding now. In our own time, we did not uncover a secret from the past. We merely happened to witness a moment within a far greater timeline, one in which human history may be only a brief pause, and that pause now seems to be ending. The final answer to the great question is not what is inside. It is what it is doing. And the most troubling answer of all is this: it is waking up.